Welcome to the People in Professions podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Shailesh. Join me as I speak to people from varied walks of life, from scientists to street vendors, from engineers to artists, from businessmen to influencers, as I try to uncover how they became what they are and how they are creating growth across industries. This is a podcast about people, their professions, their lives, their struggles, their goals, the opportunities that made them, and so on. The reason for this podcast series is that I believe you can learn a lot from people and the circumstances that drive them. And this information cannot be gained from books or the internet. This can only be learned from people's journeys and their understanding. So you can find the episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, our website, and all of these details can be found in our show notes. So join me as I talk to people and help me build this human library. Hi. Due to some technical difficulties, there is an echo in my voice in this recording. I'm really sorry for that. This is really unfortunate because we had a great discussion with Dr. Mohd Afeef Badri, who is a researcher at French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission. We had a deep discussion on what research means and what it takes to be a researcher and what has been his learnings over the years. What is the difference between research culture in India and France, and a lot more at it. So this was a very interesting discussion, but unfortunately there is an echo in my voice. So I'm really sorry, and I hope you guys listen to it, and we ensure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Hi everyone, welcome to People in Professions podcast. Today we have Dr. Mohd Afeef Badri with us. Dr. Mohd Afeef Badri is currently a researcher at French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission. With more than 170 citations, he is one of the leading researchers globally in numerical simulations. He has an educational background that fills all of this with an A plus in aeronautical engineering from the prestigious Aeronautical Society of India, a dual master's degree in India and France with a meritorious scholarship, a PhD in advanced technology from IRT Jules Verne, and a postdoc in CA, where incidentally he's also guiding students to their PhDs now. It is truly, Afif, it's truly an honor to discuss science research and generally what it takes to have a career in searching, researching, and advancing our understanding with you today. Afif, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me. I hope that I can add value to to your audio services.
Yeah, thank you, Afif. So I want to start with the basics. Like, what does a career in core science mean?
I think that really depends because career in core science, I mean, you could talk research. Research is a career in core science.
Mm,
You could talk engineering. Engineering is a part of science, or you could talk other human sciences. That is a part of core science. Science is actually all around us. So
mm,
science is basically you have the fundamental knowledge of working of the universe, and that covers everything. So career in core science is all around us. And for me personally, I have experience in the research bit of it.
mm.
What does it mean to be a researcher in science? And we can probably discover more about that during the call.
Yeah, definitely. The whole purpose of People and Professions podcast is to understand different professions. So what's
Mm-hmm.
happening right now is there are few buzzwords. It's ironic that we spend a lot of time defining our careers, but when it comes to the choice of our careers, it's generally driven by the network of people we have, or it's driven by what is hip around. So everyone wants to be an AI ML engineer. Everyone wants to be a data scientist. The purpose of this is to discuss with people who are actually leading their own careers, who are the flag bearers in a particular thing, and want to understand what it is that is leading them to that, and what is their meaning and identity that they derive from that. So as a researcher, as you rightly put, what is the meaning and identity that you derive from research?
So it's a good question. First thing, when you said that, okay, we are driven by buzz around us, and we are driven by people around us.
Mm,
Definitely true, but I would say it's becoming less and less. So
mm,
why is that? First of all, let's talk about why is that.
mm,
Because now we are living in the era of of information.
Mm.
Thanks to internet being in our mobile phones now, everyone is connected.
Mm.
And the sort of content that you get on internet now, it's really diverse,
Mm.
right? You see trends changing. You see people talking about AI today, then they might talk about some other technologies. So by the age where you decide your career, you are
Mm.
exposed to multitude of things that wasn't the case before. Before
Correct.
it might have been just your experience with your peers that
Mm.
are around you that perhaps drives your career or your zeal to something. But now, because in the age of this technology, I
Mm.
think definitely buzzwords have got a lot to play with, and how media puts forward those words, how those words come up to you.
Mm.
But then it's also that the choice is more diverse, I would say.
Mm.
And then coming to the second question, what does it mean to be a researcher? That
Correct.
was it.
Yes.
So let's break it down.
Mm.
Let's see what are the roles of the research. So research, what does it mean? Fundamentally, it's to answer, to find data, to analyze
Mm.
data about some curiosity.
Mm.
Okay, that curiosity could come up. It could be individual.
Mm.
Okay, it could be that you're thinking about something. Let me uncover the, let's say, how universe works, how
Mm.
certain processes work, and that curiosity leads to some lot of questions.
Mm.
So those questions, you collect data about it,
Mm.
you pursue it, you critically think about the processes that are behind it.
Mm.
Okay, and then there could be a problem associated with that kind of curiosity that you have. You try to
Mm.
solve that problem, and
Mm.
finally you try to communicate.
Mm.
Okay, that means you try to conclude and communicate it to the others.
Mm.
That's what research is, and that's what you really do in the job of a researcher.
Mm.
So basically, you think you have certain problems, let's say, that we are facing now. So
Mm.
you need to critically think about it, and you need to go through these lot of C's.
Mm.
I just noticed that I said lot of
Yeah.
words with C: curiosity, critical thinking.
Mm.
You need to communicate, and you need to conclude, because
Mm.
I mean, communication is one of the skills that you need as a researcher.
Correct.
By communication, I mean you need to be able to publish them.
Mm.
You need to clearly put your findings in a way so that other people can understand. That's when it
Mm.
will be called research, and that's how science expands.
Mm.
Because what science is an ever expanding knowledge database of ours, how we
Mm.
think things work. And this comes out of research and critical thinking. And I hope I'm clear
No,
on
uh,
what it is.
it's good. We'll come to the day-to-day life and how do you publish and the importance of publishing and others. But
Mhm.
what does it take to be a researcher, or who should be a researcher?
A curious soul
Mm-hmm.
who uh, who can apply this process that I said, who can break down the problem into multiple bits and pieces, and has the patience
Mm.
to work towards discovering what's going on,
Mm.
and to then communicate it in a proper way. That okay, this was my initial problem that I thought about, and
Mm.
this is why it's happening. But problem, it could be that you want to understand a process, you
Mm.
want to understand some chemical reactions, let's say,
Mm.
and let me go deep down what chemicals are involved and why they're behaving like that, what are the molecules doing. So
Mm.
that could be your research. So that's what it means to be a researcher.
No, correct. I would also add, like, with curiosity, you also need the grit, because research is not easy. Research is not for the faint-hearted. You need to have a lot of trial and error that happens every single day. Is a search. Every single day is researching that. Correct.
No,
You
yeah,
agree with that?
definitely. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Research is not one solution that comes out. It's a lot of failures that then gives you a solution. And what is
Correct.
good that because you can associate the failures to why they happened, so that's also a research.
Correct.
I mean, if you're associated to a product driven company or something like that, in the end, the product that comes out is a process of research that goes on.
Correct.
It's a process of iterations that come out for that product. So in the end, what the world sees, it could be a product, but the process of doing that, the failures, is research. So yeah,
Correct.
it is a lot of trial and error, and then the hope is that with experience, an experienced researcher makes less errors
Yeah.
than
A
I mean,
novice.
you always have the hypothesis that it's going to happen that way. If it happens that way, hallelujah. If it doesn't, that's also hallelujah, because then
Correct.
you need to even publish the why it didn't happen, and then so that
Correct.
the next person cannot make the same kind of mistakes.
Correct. So you raise a very interesting topic. You also celebrate the failures. So what does a failed research mean like?
Good question. So a failed research is one less way, or n number of less ways, n being the number of failures, how not to do research in that subject.
Correct.
You see, it's still a result.
Mm.
I remember my first taste of research was when I joined as a research intern here in France. So basically, during my intern, I was dealing with a specific kind of a numerical computer simulation. And first three, or I think the internship was supposed to happen for 6 months, and first 4 months I was always failing. I was trying out different mathematics, different algorithms, and which were failing. And by the end of 4 months, I went to my supervisors and I discussed, like, I have had these failures, nothing has worked. And he said, that's a good news, because now we just need to know why it doesn't work in
Correct.
research, even the failure. And when we figured out why it wasn't working, that led us to what would work. And then when I finally made my thesis, my master's thesis, a lot of the part of my master's thesis is dedicated to why things don't work, why these algorithms are bad idea. Okay, I can get into technical details about it, but again, failure is not like you're a bad researcher. It means that you're just discovering ways which shouldn't work.
Oh, perfect. Then how do you keep yourself motivated?
Yes, a good question. uh, it is, first of all, the end goal that you have to look for. Okay, and it's also about this understanding that if I'm failing, and if I can really analyze why I fail, that analysis is going to lead me to an answer, you know. And these failures, as I said, failures are celebrated in research. Okay, it's not that you connect it to the traditional word failure. You understand what I mean? Because research is discovering. And as I said, failure is just discovering one way of uh, how not to do that thing. You understand?
Correct.
So this, I wouldn't say that as long as you know why it didn't work out, why it's a failure, it's not a failure. It's still a success.
Correct.
A failure would be really like you had some hypothesis that this thing will always work, and then you're proven wrong. But in the end, it's for the betterment of science. It's for the betterment of understanding the things correctly.
Correct. As long as you keep yourself motivated, that no matter what I do, as long as I'm doing it, it's not a failure or a waste in science. That keeps you
Yeah,
motivated.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah, yeah. You have to have n number of hours you have to put in before you hit that success. And then
Correct.
also one of the important things in research, research as a field, it's something where you can always go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and you will never find the end. Okay,
Correct.
a process might lead to something else, then you can read about that, and then you can read about that, and your brain is finite. So one important thing in research, which I have learned and which somebody else taught me, my supervisors taught me, is to know when to put a full stop. It's to know that, okay, I need to put a full stop now, and I need to communicate. I need to, let's say, I need to publish my findings, or I need to have a conclusion of this part, and then I can decide whether I move on or not. Because if we don't put that full stop, if we don't put those brakes on and conclude something, we might always be looking into more and more optimized things, looking deeper and deeper and deeper.
Correct. How do you know? How do you know when to put a full stop?
I think that comes with experience. That comes with so one thing about the many C's that I spoke about research. One thing is collaboration. Okay, collaboration and communication, of course. And when you collaborate and communicate, you talk to your colleagues. You communicate with them. So when you communicated with them, and if you feel, because you're always reading literature and you're getting feedbacks from your colleagues, and I think with experience it comes that you feel that you have done enough work that is new, because research has to be something new that has not been done before. You have created something new, and that's how you know. And it comes with experience. In the beginning, it has to be your supervisors, it has to be your collaborators around you who tell you that, okay, you have done a nice amount of work. Why don't you publish them? Why don't you conclude them? And as long as you progress in your career, then you take those decisions.
So on the flip side of it, how would you know whether I should continue this research or not, or whether the research has hit a dead end?
There's no dead end. Firstly, as I said, that you can always keep on
Iterating.
iterating on top of it, finding something new, because science is all connected. You see, you can have one research today, and then somebody comes up with his or her research, and then you can connect the two, and now you have another new field that emerges from connecting the two, and then this can happen over and over and over again, and it comes up, and yeah, I mean, sometimes, yeah, definitely you need to. Dead end can be where you stop to pursue it. You see, where you decide that, let me not pursue this because there is something else that needs more attention, or there's something else that interests me, or there's something else that is the need of the hour. Let me do that. But that doesn't mean that the other thing that you quit, it's the dead end for that. It can definitely be a subject that could continue.
Till now, we have been talking about the personal aspect of it, like how you know when to stop or how you know when you can continue. But from value addition point of it, how do you know if a research is valuable or not? Can you gauge that?
As I said, research, it's more on the knowledge database that you create. Okay, and it has to be something that has not been done before. Okay, if it gets used in your day-to-day life, and if that's what you call value, then you can call it valuable. But there is a lot of literature, and there is a lot of research lying there that is always useful to someone or the other, because other people are reading about it, so they're expanding their knowledge. So it's always being used. I think you need to define more what do you mean by valuable.
Yeah, no, it's not about application.
Uh-huh.
Research eventually will turn into application, if not today, in near future. That's what I believe. But how do you see if that particular research is valuable to pursue or not? If you are doing into X direction, a paper in this particular X direction, or another algorithm in this X direction, or another model in this X direction would be useful. How do you decide that in terms of theoretical application itself?
I mean that's personal. That depends on
Mm,
the type of the researcher that you are. Some researchers tend to. I mean, research is also about proving something wrong.
mm,
You understand that proving
mm,
that existed, that we
mm,
believed in this law. Like this is what happened when we had a shift in physics from the Newtonian physics to the
mm,
physical understanding that we have from Einstein.
mm,
And so it was about new things and proving the old things wrong. So it depends on what kind of a how do you really define value, and how do you really define
mm.
uh, I mean define your objectives. I think it's personal.
No, correct. Yeah, every
You see
research.
you see what I mean? Everything is personal, and then there could be researchers that are really driven by industry.
Mm,
That's what we do in my sort of work. Our
mm,
research is driven by the industry, the need of the hour.
mm,
It's not academic, because academic research, you have a lot of concepts that never make it through to the application,
mm,
but they are important as well to understand. Okay, they are
mm,
also that means that as humans we have many number of ways by which we can do some process, but we choose the finite number that are feasible for us.
no, correct. This is a very good point to segue on to what industrial research do you do? Like most of us don't know how closely you interact with industry. How closely do you interact with industry?
Um, a really good question. I think that today's research, at least the industrial research,
Mm,
is really like drafted,
mm,
where the industry and the researchers sit together.
mm,
They they have by sitting together, I mean, for instance, you can take in conferences, scientific conferences that are happening.
mm,
Before, it was only let's say scientists that would take part in these conferences,
mm,
and that's it. But
mm,
now the trend is changing. You have the industry that actively participates in such kind of events,
mm,
and then there are these delegates from the industry who talk about their problems that they have, and this sort of gives a feedback to the scientific world. Okay, that these are the kind of problems that the industry has. Let's think about them.
mm,
You understand? So there is an active feedback loop that is happening, and we do sometimes in
mm,
research. I mean, go that way,
mm,
and it's really active. It's really, and for instance, in my specific work, we have a lot of what we call clients,
mm,
and clients are our industry,
mm,
and these are people that we always are in word with, and they tell us that this is something that is not working, this is something that we are not happy with, and
mm,
then we take them as challenges, and then by a couple of years, or by a couple of months, or by end period, we come
mm.
up with a solution for it.
When you say come up with a solution for clients, is it a specific paper or is it a specific approach, algorithm, or is it an experimental solution?
No, it could be multiple things. It could
Mm,
be it could be as simple as understanding the process,
mm,
because the solution as a researcher starts there. It's like, first you have to understand the fundamental of it,
mm,
why so, and then it could be discovering or applying the mathematics that we have available in the forms of algorithms,
mm,
uh, or discovering things at experimental level.
mm,
Okay, and these could be in the form of the solutions could be in the form of reports. The solution
Mm.
could be in the form of oral communications. The solution could be in the form of experimental proofs. The
Mm.
solutions could be in the form of algorithms,
Mm.
or computer codes that
Mm.
that people. So that's what it means. But then the process is this research and trying to look what other people have done about it, trying to
Mm.
look where the problem lies, and how I can connect it to other sort of things that have happened before.
Mm. So when you say you have clients and you consult with those clients, do you also have timelines decided by the clients?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, um, yes and no,
Mm-hmm.
because the kind of clients that we're talking about, uh, it's not somebody who with specifically with timeline. And if you say that, okay, if the need is to understand the process,
Mm.
we do definitely have a timeline in our head.
Mm.
But then the ultimate objective is to understand the process. It can come up in a matter of weeks. It could come up in a matter of months. It could come up in a matter of years.
Mm.
That's more engineering when you have timelines. You
Mm.
understand?
Mm.
When you have a specific timeline, that would be engineering. When you say that you
Mm.
put it to research,
Mm.
you cannot
Mm.
gauge how it goes. Okay.
Mm.
For instance, when we um, let's say when we have interns, or when we start our PhDs, or when we
Mm.
start our careers in research,
Mm.
we never knew what we never know what direction it's going to head up to,
Mm.
what how much amount of research I would perform. That would mean if I'm more interested and more interested. And so it's never driven by a timeline. But
Mm.
yeah, you in the end you respect something, you respect a
Yeah.
feasible thing. When it's research as an education, you need to respect. You if
Mm.
your research internship is for 6 months, you need to
Mm.
put a full
Correct.
stop and at the end of it. um, but generally timelines, yes and no.
Mm. Okay, it's not engineering timelines when you have sprints, where you have deliveries and outcomes, but it's morely research timelines which are decided predominantly by the researcher and the lab or the university. Is
Yes,
that the
yes,
case?
yes,
Mm.
yes. That's it. Because research often part is it's also individual, because nobody is your boss.
Mm.
Okay, it's like you are deciding the way how you need to tackle that problem, and you are accountable to yourself.
Mm.
Nobody is going to ask you that how many hours of work did you put in? Did you sit in front of the computer for n number of hours?
Correct.
Because I remember something really interesting. Maybe you remember the guy, Dr. Ahmad Al Mukhtar,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
who was actually
Uh, Lab
our
director.
dean,
Mm.
our director.
Mm.
I had this discussion with him before pursuing my PhD,
Mm.
because I knew that at that time I wanted to pursue a career in research. I told him that, what is it like to be a researcher?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm.
what is the work? What is life like?
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
He told me something really interesting. He said, a researcher always works, a
Mm.
researcher never works.
Mm.
Okay. So what does it mean, always work? It could mean that because lot of it is thinking
Mm.
about the problem. Okay.
Mm.
So you're always, once you are on a specific topic about a
Mm.
research,
You keep thinking.
you'll always be thinking about the solutions, thinking about how to put it in the correct way. And
Mm.
a researcher never works. By the end, it could seem that the person is just sitting on his chair, on
Mm.
his or her chair, and
Mm.
doing nothing. But
Mm.
in fact, no, the thinking cap is on.
Mm.
So that's what it means.
Correct. No, very beautifully said. Maybe this we can segue and maybe you can tell us what a day to day looks like. You told it depends on the person and you're free to do your job. But what does an average day to day look like for a premier researcher?
I can speak from my personal experience.
Yes,
Like, what does it? It might be something completely different for
correct.
somebody else. Uh, an average day-to-day research, it starts with something that you have already um, been either working on before,
Mm,
uh, or it could start with something new that
mm,
that you have to that you have decided that you would work on. So it would start with a lot of reading,
mm,
updating yourself through multiple means, either through reading scientific papers, reading other sort of articles, reading books,
mm,
and then it could, for me personally, it also means a lot of mathematics,
mm,
going on the whiteboard and
mm,
chalking down the equations and trying to understand what happens there. It
mm,
also, for me, means a lot of coding,
mm,
okay, because I do applied research. So
mm,
to prove uh, the maths,
mm,
sometimes I use algorithms and codes to make it work.
mm,
And it could also mean that I dedicate some part of it
mm,
to write to
mm,
write things, whether it be on my notes,
mm,
where I'm always writing down that I found out that these things I conclude from this thing, this thing. So that's how an average day looks like. And oftentimes you have meetings between
mm,
other scientists, and you have some obligations to publish,
mm,
to travel to conferences, so to talk
mm,
to talk to
mm,
people.
mm. No, this is very interesting. Often there's a misconception about research saying that it's a very nerdy, it's a very boring. You sit in a dingy corner of your office and you keep working always, which is not the case. You always say that communication is important, writing is important,
Mm.
collaboration is important. So if you want a career where in which you are your own boss and you have the freedom to search on topics that interest you and work with industry, then research is probably the best option. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely would agree on that, and specifically, I would emphasize, at least in the European market.
Mm,
I'm not an expert what is happening in research in India, or what is
mm,
happening in research in China, or other places, but
mm,
I could speak more on the peers that I have around from Europe. That's what
correct.
they tell me, that it is
Mm,
like that. It is, you're your own boss. You decide on your timelines. You decide how to pursue this. And research, frankly, like it's about the, if you look at it, specifically in France, for
mm,
example,
mm,
research is not a highly paid job. Okay,
mm,
it's
mm,
not really at there, where you can make it
mm,
big in
mm,
terms of money.
mm,
Okay,
mm,
but you also know that premium researchers,
mm,
lot of researchers who are really good in their fields,
mm,
if they switch to a
mm,
company as a
mm,
as a consultant or as an expert, and that's what happens. A lot of companies are always looking for experts
correct.
that can come. They can make it there. They can make it big in terms of money. Okay,
Mm,
but what drives research is the passion
mm,
for discovering things. It's the passion for really, like, to make something new,
mm,
to have something published with your name on it, with your
correct.
tag on it.
Correct.
So that's what is really driving it.
Correct. I think very beautifully said. It's the process, and in that process, maybe the paycheck is lower than an average software engineer. But once you reach an expert stage, then the pay can be much, much, much higher.
Oh, but no, I wouldn't say that. The pay in research, at least in France, it's going to be always lower than somebody who chooses a career in engineering or in
Mm,
management or something like that. So
mm,
so it's a process where
yeah.
people don't really care about what you're earning from it. It's
Mm,
really the passion that is driving you.
correct. When you say make it in research, what does a
Mhm.
career in research look like? What are the next stages? One was consulting that you talked about. What are the other ways?
Can you put your question in another way, because I think I don't understand it quite
Uh,
well.
One possible career option would be go to industry and be a subject matter expert or a consultant there.
Hmm.
What are the other career options in research? You become a professor, is it, or you become a further
Ah, yeah.
researcher?
You mean when we pursue research as an education? That's what you mean. What
Yeah,
do you do
education.
after?
Yes. First, let's touch upon
Okay.
education.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, when you choose research as your option in your education,
Hmm.
uh, oftentimes there's a myth that when you do a research uh, as an education, what you're going to end up is a professor,
Mm,
or that's your life. Your life is going to be a lecturer,
mm,
or wearing lab coats somewhere and doing some scientific experiments and blowing up things, something like that. But
mm,
it's hardly the case today. You have
mm,
lot of industries, as I said before earlier in our discussions. I said that
mm,
now industry is looking closely, engineering is looking closely in what is happening in the research world, because they want to take those innovations. So they're always looking for roles of a research expert in
mm,
their research divisions.
mm,
So you can join the industry
mm,
very easily, I would say, more than becoming a full-time researcher in a lab. You could
mm,
join a career in science. You could become scientist. You could
mm,
join a career in universities where you're teaching and partly doing research.
mm,
So it's really open, because it depends by the end of your research education,
mm,
let's say PhD, and how you put forth your PhD. If you put forth your PhD that it was for solving this problem, and
mm,
that's what the industry also needs. They need problem solvers.
mm,
So it's many options,
mm,
but mostly people choose, once a researcher, always a researcher. People choose the option in to go to more universities, or to
mm.
join laboratories.
Correct.
So that's it.
That could be an option. You always talk about writing, publishing, and then presenting your work in a way that the society can accept it or utilize it. How important are papers? Or is the main goal of a researcher publishing papers?
I don't think it's the main goal, but
Mm-hmm,
I think it's one of the important things. Let's say it should be the thing, okay,
mm-hmm.
to do ultimately.
Why is that?
Because one of the part of doing research and to growing in science,
Mm-hmm,
growing as humanity, is something that what you do, it should be used.
mm,
So if I'm able to publish, and if I'm able to clearly write my findings, this would be read by let's say by companies, or by industry, or by other researcher, and then used for some other process.
mm,
Imagine
mm,
imagine somebody doing some research on automobiles, and finding the next big thing, or finding cracking the efficiency of let's say now a lot of thing is driven by solar energy. We're talking a lot about
mm,
solar energy.
mm,
So efficiency of solar energy right now is 30%.
mm,
Okay, how much you can convert. But
mm,
imagine somebody cracking it in his or her research career, and
mm,
cracking the thing, and making a solar cell that is 70% efficient, and never presenting
mm,
those findings.
mm,
It's a huge loss
mm,
to the humanity.
mm,
So it is important to publish. It is important to communicate
mm.
your findings, so that we progress, so that the knowledge database keeps on expanding.
But that's the positive scenario. There's the other side of the coin also, where researchers predominantly work on publications. Their main aim is to have more publications, and it's easier to cherry pick your data points, or it's easier to, let's say alpha was 1 in your first research, you try alpha 1.2 and then publish your next research.
Oh
Does
yes.
that happen?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, what you said is definitely true. There
Mm,
are there are mindsets, there are let's say pressures also coming
Mm,
from let's say N countries, let's not name them,
mhm,
where the end goal is to publish, and
mm,
goal is to have 10 publications per year or 5 publications per year.
mm,
It does happen, and then sadly you lead to showing only good things or bad things, but it's not the most part of it, let's say.
mm,
It's not happening always.
mm,
Okay. Mostly what happens is what comes out, what publishes, it's the correct research,
mm,
it's the correct process. But
mm,
it does, what you said, it does happen, and sometimes the researchers are driven by this goal of just publishing, and
mm,
then if it's just publishing, you can publish anything. But thankfully, there when we publish in research, you have
mm.
reviews,
Correct.
you have reviewers that are other researchers that are doing the review for you,
Mm,
that are trying to assess your work.
mm,
And a lot of time these reviews, these kind of papers, these kind of proceedings
mm,
never go through a good review journal.
mm.
So the high impact factor journal will mostly have good articles, and also you choose what to
Mm.
read.
So you were talking about pressures. What do you mean by pressures? Is the funding defined by the number of papers you give, or is it something like that?
In some cases it is. In some
Mm,
countries it is. In some countries there are also laws that are, let's say there's a law by the university that for a PhD student to get his PhD in the end,
mm,
uh, he or she has to publish 10 papers or 5 papers. And
mm,
then there's an additional pressure from your supervisor that no, I don't want you to publish just 5. I want you to
mm,
publish 10.
mm,
So these are the kind of pressures, and then yes, of course, it's in the contracts of lot of researchers that you have to publish n number of papers in a year,
mm,
or in a cycle, or on a subject. But that doesn't happen mostly in all the countries. But yeah, in some countries it does. In France, it doesn't happen. There's
mm,
no such pressure to. It's always like when you have something quality,
mm,
publish it. If it's not quality, no need.
mm.
Or you see,
You talk about publishing for someone who is new to the research domain, who doesn't know the research domain. What is the process of publishing? You talked about peer reviews, you talked about conferences, journals. What does that all this mean?
you mean the process of publishing, or
The
what does it?
process of
What?
publishing and the two avenues, journals and conferences.
So yeah, I mean, generally, publishing could be in any form. It could be even reports.
Mm,
It could be even your thesis that you write. It could be even small notes
mm,
that get published now. So it's a lot of times we think that it's just conferences and journals, but it's much more.
mm,
It's basically a literature that you put down, and
mm,
your findings that you put down in let's say in a human readable form, or somewhere,
mm,
um, that that then is beneficial for some other thing. But mostly what publishing means, it means a conference
mm,
proceeding. That means you take your results and you present them in some conference in front of some audience that is there, the because they are experts in that domain,
mm,
or because they want to learn for that domain, and then you follow it up with a 10 page or a 5 page paper on it,
mm,
which you present your findings. Or it could be in journals,
mm,
uh, that that are these books, sort of,
mm,
with collection of n number of articles, and these
mm,
are peer reviewed.
mm. So, do you see any problems or any I hear a lot of problems saying the publishing houses charge this much, it's not free to download, and etc. etc. So, do you think there are any problems in the whole publishing ecosystem?
uh, yes, of course. I mean, I would agree with you that
Mm.
there are definitely a lot of publication houses which do charge you with money to read, maybe not to publish. There is a lot of open source resources,
Mm.
open source things as well that are going on.
Mm.
But there are definitely the one problem is monetary consideration, that you are being charged to publish,
Mm.
or you're being charged to read those publications. Then it's their way of surviving, because in the end there is they have to survive.
Mm.
And there is the other problem in publications and publishing is what we discussed before. There are pressures, so people
Mm.
publish a lot of things that's not so impactful.
Mm.
Let's not say that it's totally useless. It's not
Mm.
impactful. It's
Correct.
not something. It's not a breakthrough.
Mm.
Then there are sort of lot of things also people do where they tend to hide data,
Mm.
uh, which is not in the basic ethics of a
Mm.
researcher or of a research. And
Mm.
then if you are driven by this passion to publish,
Mm.
you end up rewriting the same thing in different forms.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean,
Correct.
there are these problems definitely do exist.
So, do you think the peer-reviewed self-correcting process that the ecosystem has is sufficient to regulate all of this, or should there be a better regulation?
Hmm. Interesting. Um, I don't think that I can really add on to it, because if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
if the work is done honestly from both sides,
Mm.
firstly from the side of somebody wanting to publish his research, his or her research. Sorry if I always use his. It's
No,
always it means
it's
it means
easier.
in both
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
His or her research. So if it's honestly done, so it will have some merit. So because
Mm.
it's being published by a researcher, uh, he or she knows that
Mm.
it is enough work done to be published. So if
Mm.
if it's honesty from that side, it's going to work. And then
Mm.
if the reviewers honestly do their work, the system, I think it's going to work. I think what it
Mm.
means, it's honesty and is lacking
Mm.
if it's not working. There have been other things that have been tried. For instance, there is double blind peer review
Mm.
process where
Mm.
you don't know who the reviewers are, or where you reviewers don't know who is publishing.
Mm.
So that has been tried, but it's not widely accepted. This is
Mm.
the thing that is working as of
Mm.
now. Will in 50 coming years there will be an AI that is able to
Mm.
judge the quality of papers? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as of now, this is the thing that has worked, and I'm not an expert on this domain. I have never thought about it, so
Mm.
I don't know.
No, correct. Thank you for this. But as you say, credibility of all the stakeholders involved in the process is very important. So, how important is citations, H index add to your credibility? How do you decide a researcher's credibility?
Yeah. Uh, it really depends. It depends. Like if somebody is looking into citations, or if somebody is looking into H index, because there's a lot of researchers who don't publish research on such forums which can then lead to citations,
Mm.
uh, who are always, let's say, doing confident people who do a lot of at CA we do a lot of confidential research which is
Mm.
never published.
Mm.
But
Mm.
that doesn't make us or somebody else who is pursuing confidential research or pursuing research in the form of internal reports and
Mm.
internal technical findings,
Mm.
that doesn't make somebody a less credible researcher
Correct.
or something. And these citations and H index and all these are really not the way to judge research
Mm.
in the end.
Mm. Correct.
But it's definitely one factor. But it also depends, like how sometimes something gets picked up quite easily because you have some really nice communication skills and you have put it in the way that other people can understand it very easily, and the work gets picked up.
Mm,
Sometimes there is something pure gold, but
mm.
it's put in a way that it's very difficult to understand. It's very difficult to apply. So in the end, it will fetch less number of citations. So I really don't believe that citations are the way
Correct.
to judge somebody's credibility.
Correct. Talking about the work that you do at CA, I think it's a good segue to understand the work that you do at CA without breaching any contracts or any confidentiality. Can you give us
Mhm.
a brief overview of what you do?
So basically, first thing, like, when we hear CEA, we see there's French alternative energy. It's about atomic. It's about nuclear, and we think in
Mm,
that way. But in
mm,
fact, CEA is a much wider organization, which
mm,
works in biology, in physics, in chemistry, in every bit of science, in astrophysics,
mm,
in the science of universe, and it has multiple aspects to it. Okay.
mm,
Me personally, I work as an applied mathematician.
mm,
I mean, if you tell me what am I now, I am somebody who does maths, a lot of maths,
mm,
but applied maths, and these are for always for problems that can come in the future,
mm,
about energy, about engineering,
mm.
and yeah, that's it. I don't think I can discuss a lot on this subject.
No, understood. Uh, as I understand, you have also done aeronautical engineering from prestigious Aeronautical Society of India. As aeronautical is not widely pursued, at least from
Mhm.
my understanding in India, what do you do? What do you want to say to people who want to pursue engineering apart from computer science on the core sciences?
Yeah, I mean, a good question. I mean, oftentimes when you make the decision of which engineering, at least at my time, it was driven by what do I think I'm most connected to? What do I think that that really I am passionate about, or
Mm,
that I think I can do. So
mm,
somebody who wants to pursue career in engineering, I would say definitely have a look into, try to at least understand all the engineerings that are available for you,
mm.
and then later in your career, what do you do after the engineering? You can always switch, or you can
Yep.
always change. I don't think that a person doing computer engineering or IT based
Mm,
engineering is somebody doing IT today. We know
mm.
that the scene is like you have
Yep.
chemical engineers who are working in IT. It's
Yep.
it's sort of it's sort of training that you get during your education on how to solve certain problems.
Mm.
So then the market picks you up as people who know how to solve problems.
Correct. Correct. So this is a very important point. What does traditional education teach you? If you are pivoting into, if a computer chemical engineer is pivoting into IT, then what is the use of traditional education?
No, a good point. But as I said, that I think what you learn in different sciences or different engineering is problem solving skills, is to
Mm,
how to read and understand something and then apply it.
mm,
That's your skill. That's your
correct.
skill at the end. And if somebody tells me that this is a chemical engineer and has read finite number of books for finite year, and then finish the courses in chemical engineering, let's say,
Mm, mm,
I can judge that the person is capable of understanding things
mm,
in a way and applying it. So
Correct.
for me as a client, as a company, I can be like, okay, there's no problem that the person will be able to understand how computers work
Mm.
and how to apply algorithms. So the person is capable enough of doing that.
Correct. So what you're saying is don't be scared to pivot. It's your
Oh
skills will
yes.
definitely be useful in some or the other fashion.
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. It's one has to understand that the core skill lies in problem solving. The core skill lies in being able to read and understand about some things and then apply it. So, for instance, I can tell you here in
Mm.
France there is some new sort of engineering and IT that has started.
Mm-hmm.
That's called 42, 42. Okay, I don't know why they
Okay.
call it 42, but
Uh-huh.
this it's sort of a course where you decide what do you want to pursue in IT.
Nice.
You don't have a
Nice.
set course.
Mm.
You have some real world problems,
Mm.
and they are infinite. There are
Mm.
many of them, and
Mm.
you work on them. And how do you work? You learn from the internet. You
Mm.
learn from video lectures that are already available. You're not connected to any university.
Mm.
And once you solve that project,
Mm.
other people that are involved in the same thing judge
Mm.
that what you did was it right or wrong. And by the end of 4 years, you have your engineering degree.
Wow. Very
So
nice.
and I mean, I am in discussion with some of these people because
Mm.
it's not a very old concept. It's a very new concept which
Mm.
started a few years ago, and now the batches of engineers have come up, and they
Mm.
are brilliant people because they are driven by themselves.
Mm.
They are not forced to join some n number of classes in university or something like that because they are
Mm.
passionate about a problem. They do it, and the kind of problems they solve is, for instance, I met people who have written their own kernels, computer kernels, Linux kernels.
Wow. Yeah.
Who
Mm.
I met people who have written their own terminals. You know, you have this
Mm.
command
Mm.
prompt that can
Mm.
do many things. So they
Mm.
have written their own thing. So these people doing it in 4 years, such kind of
Mm.
work,
Yeah.
it's
It's really
commendable.
amazing. Yeah. The other side of it is how important is academic excellence. You are someone who has always been a meritorious student with scholarships, with who's always performed very well academically. Do you think performing well academically is very important to pursue a career in research?
No,
Then
I
what
don't
is
think
the
so.
pressure?
I don't think I really don't think that it also means that if you're gauging somebody academically,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, that academically, pers being good enough, it depends on where you are, where your location is. Okay,
Mm.
location means that in which part of the world you are. For
Mm.
instance, in India, we know that there is a lot of testing by the end of your engineering or by the end of your certain courses that happens in the form of exams.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
but here the system is completely different, where it is. It's more like practical credits that you get during your course,
Mm.
in which you do projects and
Mm.
which are then judged. And
Mm.
there are things where people just tell you that you have passed or you have failed. Okay,
Mm.
so how do you judge that somebody is excellent if you just know that the person has passed?
Mm.
You understand? I don't
Correct.
think that these academic thresholds that have been set up, that okay, that a good student is somebody that has n number of marks. No, it could be somebody uh, that's not good enough uh, for communicating or writing things or something, but is a genius at the brain. You can always gauge that
Mm.
by experience.
Correct. You always talk about location and the importance of your peer group. So, how important is it for you to do research in France?
Ah, a nice a nice question. Um, I think when I moved to France, I didn't have intentions to stay back. I
Mm,
didn't have intentions to pursue my career in research in France. Okay, uh, but what I discovered, the way research is being pursued here, I discovered that it's without that pressure to publish.
mm,
It's quality.
mm,
Okay, it's you only publish when you are in when you're done with some quality research,
mm,
uh, and the kind of confidence that the funding agencies and your superiors show towards you,
mm,
uh, that is some quality that this country has.
mm,
And even recognizing your small successes in research and really telling it that okay, you made it. I think
mm,
these qualities are there that French research environment has. So
mm,
for me, it is important to have such kind of an environment around. And France is one such country where I find it. I'm not saying that it is the only country that has it.
mm, mm,
There are many countries that share the similar research scenario and as France, but you need a good environment to propel,
mm,
and France certainly has one of the leading research environments to
mm.
propel forward.
When you talk about environments to succeed, to thrive in, do you think for an Indian researcher, it's
Mhm.
important to shift to European Union or the Western countries to do quality research?
Oh, no, no, no. I definitely don't think so. I
Mm,
think, as I said, research in the end, it's also about your individual game, right?
mm,
It's also about like how you play it, how
mm,
how you are doing it. And as a researcher, the community is it's not divided.
mm,
Let me put it that way. Like there are no borders, because when the kind of the communication part of it that I spoke about before, where you're
mm,
presenting in conferences, these are international conferences, so
mm,
everybody is at the same table.
mm,
So I don't think that for an Indian researcher that one has to move elsewhere and all that. You find your environment, find your university, find
mm,
your lab,
mm,
where you work comfortably
mm.
and pursue your career, and then it goes ahead from there.
Yeah. Along with the environment, the people are also important. You told me before that your peers have helped you a lot, your professors have helped you a lot. So, how important is mentors in research?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think mentors, not only in research, in every sort of profession, play
Mm,
play a huge role. A mentor could be someone that is in touch with you, really from day-to-day life.
mm,
I mean, you're exchanging with your mentor every day, or something, or it could be somebody who is connected with you for a finite number of time, but their advices stay on. Okay,
mm,
but it is definitely I think one of the important aspects of a researcher, or any job, to be connected, because you then get feedback, you get to learn, you get to understand the pitfalls, and
mm,
I think it's an important concept, one which
mm,
one should really take up.
mm. So, over the years, over your career, you would have learned a lot of tips and tricks. You would have learned how to do this by experience. You would have realized like this is the best way or this is the optimal way of doing this. For anyone who is pursuing his PhD or master's or is planning to pursue a career in research, be it industry or academics, what is your tips to them?
uh, a good one, a good question. um, I'm not an expert, but from my personal experience, always firstly think about what your problem is, or what your goal is. spend enough time to really
mm,
understand,
mm,
and to take time to understand what your goal is. Okay,
mm,
because oftentimes you rush the process. Oftentimes
mm.
people have some objective, and then they really pounce at it.
Yeah.
Let me start doing it. Okay,
Mm,
so first thing, take your time to understand the process, to understand the question, to
mm,
understand the goal. Okay.
mm,
Uh, an example here, for instance, I had somebody who was working with a company, and they wanted him to do something in Python. Okay,
mm,
in
mm,
Python language, and he came to me saying that, what are your advices in this thing? I want to do this in Python, and this has been done, and I'm really worried that I have to pick up a new skill. I have to learn
mm,
Python, and then I have to draw this algorithm in a certain way.
mm,
I told him that, did you try to think about it? Why Python, first of all?
mm,
Maybe that the question was in Python. Maybe it was just mentioned, do it in Python,
mm.
but
Yeah.
you are taking the question in the wrong way. Maybe they want
Correct.
the algorithm in the end, you know?
Correct.
So, and it turned out that way, that
Mm,
the question was posed like, do it in Python, and he thought that it's a constraint, but it was not.
mm,
The constraint
mm.
was the algorithm in the end. Okay, so first thing
Correct.
is, spend enough time understanding the question, and
Correct.
don't be shy to question those questions.
Mm,
You know, to look more into it. Then it's like you need to break down anything that you're doing into finite number of steps.
mm,
Okay, and at each step you need to conclude. You need to have a
mm,
sort of conclusion and a celebration, that what did you do you understand. Let's say if you're studying for your examination. Okay, so
mm,
you need to break down it into multiple chapters or multiple subjects, and then
mm,
each subject you break down even into finite number of things.
mm,
Okay, and then you celebrate, and then you conclude each thing. Okay,
mm,
so second thing that is important is that you need to break down, and then always write,
mm.
always put it down somewhere,
Correct.
because you can always refer back to something that is tangible,
Mm,
that has been written, or that has been put down in the form of notes, or something else, and then you come back, and then that triggers those neurons in your brain. Yeah, it was my chain of thought was
mm,
that. But if you have dealt with a problem that takes a lot of time to do,
mm,
uh, and if you don't have it written somewhere or something, your brain might not. There are brilliants that
mm.
that remember everything, but not everybody is bound in that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, these three things.
Yeah.
Take your
Yeah.
time understanding the problem, break it down into multiple steps.
Yeah.
At each step, have your conclusion and write it down, put it down.
Yeah. Yeah. No, very nicely said. In this era where people want to do a 4 month course in Python and become machine learning engineers, take your time to understand the problem is very, very important.
Yes, I mean,
Step.
understand what machine learning is, where
Yeah.
it came from, why is it important, what does it hold for me in future. Don't just like pounce at
Yeah.
it because your friend said it, or because you saw it on the internet that it is the
Yeah.
thing to do. And what would make you different
Mm,
than others. And the goal is always to do something different than others, to be interesting.
mm. Yeah.
Interesting to others. It could be interesting to the company, interesting to the world, interesting to talk about.
Correct. Correct. Talking about doing other things to be interesting to the company, stepping away from research quite some bit.
Mhm.
How has music been a part of your journey? I know you're a musician, so how has music been a part of your journey?
Yes, I mean, definitely. I mean, you need something uh, to to put your energies elsewhere, as
Mm,
I said. So for me, it's music and sports. where I find time to calm myself down and to go away from the problems that you're facing in your work or in your world. Because by problems that you're facing, I mean that you're doing right now. Because what we're doing right now, it's a part of a global problem, right?
mm,
If you're working in a company, you are solving a problem.
mm,
You are solving some problem. And then this time, for instance, music is me time for me,
mm,
or doing sports, or praying, or discussing, hanging out with friends.
mm,
This is that's life. That's what composes life of. And that's the time where you switch off, and then you come back better.
mm,
But I'm sorry, I will connect this thing again to research,
mm,
because that's what I have been doing since long time. But
mm,
you can take it as a generic way
mm,
of dealing. So I remember when I published my first paper, and
mm,
when I got the first reviews for the paper. So
mm,
publishing it's a auditor. That means it's
mm,
you have to iterate between yourself and the reviewer, and the reviewer
mm,
tells you that you have done such as the things wrong. So the
mm,
problem at that time that I was facing was I have the review,
mm,
and I have to answer back.
mm,
And the first thing, when I received the review, I started working on it.
mm,
Okay. And I went to my professor and said, "Oh, this is the review. We have 10 questions posed by the reviewer, and this is the problem that we have right now, and let's work towards it."
mm,
He said, "Stop.
mm,
First thing, absorb the problem.
mm,
Try to read just the questions.
mm,
Do something else. I
mm,
know that you like music. Go
mm,
and play music.
mm,
Go and do your sports.
mm,
Come back to this thing after that, because what happens is then you get time to absorb things,
mm,
and then your brain comes back with more efficiency, or
mm,
your body comes back with more efficiency. And
mm.
that's what music has been, for instance, for me. It's the time where I detox, where I
Yeah,
recharge, and then you come back. And it's not only music, it's multiple things. It's just you need something else to do other sort of things than what you're pursuing in the
yeah,
good part of your day.
yeah. Now, you raised a very interesting point that the teachers there in France are like your friends, as against the teachers in India, where you have the notion that he is your teacher and not your friend. There's a lot of difference in the work output that comes out, probably.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely, this is one of the things. And you being, I mean, you also being a student here in France, you know it quite well. The teachers here, that they are your peers, they are your colleagues,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
you don't really. But I mean, you always respect them, of course,
yeah,
but you talk to them as friends. And because they have created that sort of environment around them, you can talk anything and everything with them.
yeah.
You can discuss work and non-work with them.
Mm.
And I think that enables you to get the most out of you,
Correct.
because it's always better to work and to listen to a friend rather than to an authority.
Yeah, correct. So we come to the last segment, Afif, where these are the set of questions that I ask everyone because I think these are common to all professions and there's something for all of us to learn from this. So
Hmm.
the main important aspects for any person is work-life balance and financial independence for any job.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
what does work-life balance mean to you? You talked about independence in working individually. What does work-life balance mean to you and how do you achieve it in research?
Yeah, for me, I think for any job, work-life balance it's definitely important.
Mm,
Work-life balance in research, at least in France, it's easily achievable because the government has put regulations on it.
mm,
Okay,
yeah.
because the government has said that past six you should not work.
Mm,
Past six, you disconnect from your computers, and if your manager or if your laboratory head is sending you an email, that's illegal.
mhm,
Okay, so this gives me a perfect opportunity to use such kind of a rules that the government has set, and it is known that you need to disconnect. So the environment is quite important, and I think the work-life balance is met by disconnecting yourself at a certain amount of time, after
Mm,
a certain amount of time, and then doing your personal things, be it your family, be it your housely chores, be
mm,
it your vacations, and I think that's how it goes on.
mm. And what does financial independence mean to you?
Depends on which part of the world you are in. If in a socialist country like France,
Mm,
financial independence means that I have enough to pay my rents and
mm,
enough to eat, which is that's it. But because the rest of it, the government takes care of it, your health, your
yeah.
I mean the education, your children education, all sort of other aspects are taken care of. That's what financial independence means here.
Mm,
But in a capitalistic country, it could mean other things. It could mean you have to save enough for your future, and to be financially independent. That if things happen in your future, you need to take care of them.
no, nicely said. What does success mean to you?
uh, Making it big in your eyes, to justify it to yourself, to be to
Mm,
say in the end of the day, to say that I had this task, I
mm,
did it. It
mm,
doesn't mean that somebody else needs to approve of it. That's
mm.
what success should be, and you should always keep on setting your targets high. It doesn't mean that you set your target really
Low and
low and then
achieve it.
you're like, I am successful. I think you always need to improve, and by improving, also one needs to look back to himself or herself, what they were before and how to improve on themselves. Never
Mm,
compare.
mm. So, what has been your smartest career move till now?
My smartest career move till now, I would say choosing to pursue my research in France,
Mm,
because I had options. I was specifically looking for. Let me not name the country. I was specifically looking to pursue research in another country,
mm.
and then in the end, if I compare now the research scenario in that country and this country, I think the smartest career move was to stay back and pursue my research here.
Ah, wonderful. On the flip side, what has been your one of your career mistakes and what did you learn from it?
Um, my one of my career mistakes, definitely, like when I pursued aeronautical engineering,
Mm,
I was really like I thought, like, let me do the engineering which is the, let's say, the most Google or the most fancy one, okay?
mm,
But I wasn't really like, if you honestly ask me that why did I choose it, it was that
mm,
thing, because it was really the thing, and it felt difficult at that moment,
mm.
and I choose to do it. And if you ask me if I go back now, will I do that as a researcher? I would rather have done BSc in mathematics, MSc in mathematics, or something like that.
Yeah, correct. So, what advice would you give to your younger self if you were go back in time and give an advice to younger Faith?
That would be my advice would be that probably try to really understand that where you are ending up. I always knew in my with my actions that I would end up in the field of research, or I would
Mm,
end up in the field of, with my actions, I mean. But
mm,
the surrounding around me was saying else. Okay, the surrounding around me was saying
mm,
that no, I have to end up doing some other
mm,
kind of jobs. Okay,
mm,
but my actions were always on the thought process of it, on thinking about things and all. So I would say that, yeah, I mean, pursue a career pursue a career decision that is more apt, which would
Mm.
be rather doing some BSc or something else than
Great.
engineering.
So, if I have a full time 8 hours job, is there a way in which I can collaborate or work in research in some form? Is there an option like that for
If
anyone
you
who
have
has
a
a full
full
time job?
time,
Yeah.
oh yes, I mean you could. I mean, why not? As I said, it's just problem solving skills. Research is just critical thinking about something. You could be doing your 8 hours and then thinking about certain sort of things when in your free time, and then
Mm.
publishing them. And that's how, for instance, Albert Einstein started.
Mm.
He was working in the patent office as a full-time patent researcher, and the most acclaimed research of his
Mm.
was written then.
Mm.
So it's about you can.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Dr. Mohd Afeef Badri. It has always been an enlightening and an honest discussion with you every time. So, thank you so much. I hope the listeners also have as much fun as much learning as I did talking to you.
And the pleasure is all mine. I hope I was able to add something, and I hope this discussion of ours was meaningful can be meaningful for somebody.
Hopefully. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're interested in anything that we discussed, or if you just want to connect with the guest, you can find the LinkedIn link in the show notes. Let me know what you think of this podcast. And please feel free to send me the details of people you know whose life and career trajectory can teach us something. I will meet you in the next episode. Until then, I'm your host Shailesh, and this has been the People in Professions podcast, aiming to build a human library.